There we go. But yeah, so you were talking about like your sound and stuff. So how where do you find the equipment that you guys use for your films? Like, is it just like you get on YouTube and like do a few things, or did you go to like school where they like, hey, this is the recommended stuff you want to use, or?
Yeah, so I did a lot of research online to see like what was the best like audio equipment. And I found out that Guitar Center sold a audio recorder. I think it was called the X8, and that was amazing.
Okay.
And then another videographer I follow on YouTube recommended the Rode NTG5, and then that's
Yeah.
what I ended up using for my most recent film, The Right to Nowhere, and that was just an incredible mic. And audio is half the battle, and it's
Oh
definitely
yeah.
something you really want to invest in. So
That's
it
like getting
was,
started with this. That's what the big thing is, most folks are going to be busy anyway,
yeah.
but they can still listen while they're doing other stuff. So as long as you sound good, but that's something I haven't had to tackle yet because I haven't had to record one of these like outside.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of the challenges with that?
Oof. Well, 419 is apparently the new Windy City, so sometimes
Sure seems that way.
like I went all out though, like for like to windproof everything. Like my buddy Christian let me borrow like this blimp, which like it protects like your microphone from wind, like because sometimes the audio sounds horrendous. Sometimes it's like,
Oh
and
yeah.
like you can't hear people. So like I was like, you know what? I don't want to like ADR this. Like I want to get like everything like while like we're shooting.
Hmm.
So like I figured like it was definitely worth like going to my friend borrowing his some of his audio equipment, and then that was a game changer
Those
definitely.
stresses are relatable, but on such a small level for me. Because like,
Yeah.
while we're in the middle of doing like a podcast or whatever, because we got the video going, I'm sitting thinking about other things sometimes. But you have so many other things going on,
Yeah.
So like as far as like your like crew, did you have most of the same guys from the first movie to the new one, or?
Yeah, so there was a couple familiar faces from the last project who helped out, and then since it was there's like a couple years in between making my one film Monarch and then the new one The Right to Nowhere.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, my old sound recorder, Jarrett, he ran sound for most of my film for Monarch,
Okay.
but then he landed a pretty sweet gig actually. He started working. He's a bass player for a Van Halen tribute band
Oh,
called
cool.
Jump.
Yeah.
So like he got super slammed on the weekend. So I reached out to my other friend Kale. He
Hmm.
helped out for a couple shoots for Monarch, and he ended up becoming the main sound guy for The Right to Nowhere, and he was a lot of fun to work with. He was a giant goofball. So
That's great. That keeps it fun though. I mean, because a lot of folks are kind of like on edge. They want it to be all perfect. I feel like, and if you can just get out there and make it, fun,
yes.
it keeps it a little bit more laid back when people like, drop the ball with certain things. Do you who shoots your guys' movies? Like, do you shoot them or?
So I ended up shooting most of my movies.
Okay.
And there's one scene where I had someone else come in to fill in. Well, because I acted in one of the scenes actually. So
Okay.
one of my buddy Alex came in and he shot one of the opening scenes. And then for the most part, like I took over behind the camera just because like it's way more convenient for me to wear a lot more hats for this.
Yeah.
And sometimes like it was a little bit out of my budget to hire like
Sure.
a camera operator. And so since I figured that like I shot a lot of weddings and a lot of other events and like I had a lot of like experience behind the camera, so I figured like it was just most convenient for me
Yeah.
to run camera, and it was a lot of fun.
We do a mastermind meeting once a week, and last week we were upstairs talking about just a few things, and the podcast came up because everybody's kind of excited. Like, there's not too many agents that are doing something similar, and they asked about another gentleman who's a bit more seasoned than me, but he does this other thing where he gets in, like, has coffee with whoever it is this week. It's an older show, but he would hire him out. They're like, Kyle, how do you do it? And I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I just use some phones. It turns out great. And like, who does your back end stuff? I'm like, oh, I do all that stuff,
Right.
And they're like, Eddie, how do you do it? He's like, yeah, I just pay a guy. And I'm like, yeah, it's not on the budget. But if you know how to do it, then and you want it done your way. And that's even with like home improvement stuff. I always tell folks, like, if you pay someone to do it, you're always going to look at it and be like, I wish they would have did this. But then if you do it, it's like, well, I did it. You know what I mean? So that's cool. So let's talk about Monarch a little bit. I mean, I watched it the other night. How can people find it if they're interested in checking out the first movie you made?
It's on YouTube. It's under Monarch, an independent sci-fi/drama film.
Yeah.
If you also search up Anthony Wright films, a lot of my work will show up.
Okay.
And like all my wedding work will show up, all my promotional content for schools, businesses, some of my previews for The Ride to Nowhere, and then my two big independent films are on there, Monarch and then Renegade.
Okay.
So you can find those on YouTube. So
I'm gonna have to check Renegade out. I didn't get to see that one yet.
oh, that was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah.
I've actually made that one back in college.
Okay.
And we didn't have any budget for that at all, I remember. I gave one of the lead actors like a 6-pack for helping out on... I gave him like a 6-pack on like St. Patrick's Day. I'm like, hey, I can't pay you, but happy St. Patty's Day. Go nuts, man.
What's the runtime on that?
That one's about 53 minutes. So
cool.
Really long too. We couldn't shoot during the weeks because that's when we had like class and whatnot.
Yeah.
So like we did that all like on the weekends, and we shot that from a span. I think it was September 2017 to like June 2018. So it took a big chunk of time, but I mean that was so much fun. And that's when like I wore like a lot more hats. I remember like I was the lead actor in it. I would have like people like rotate like on camera duty, and then like whenever we couldn't find a camera operator, my good buddy the tripod helped out, and
that's cool.
So that was a lot of fun to use. And but yeah, that was a really fun experience. Like I reached out to a lot more actors from UT to help out with that.
Yeah.
A lot of people who I worked on previous short films helped out, and that was just such a fun time, I would say.
You went to school for that, right?
Yes, I went to UT for film and communications.
Did you study any of that in high school?
A little bit. It wasn't... I remember being a part of the media tech program at Central Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
I only did that for 1 year though, because you can only do it once, which was kind of weird. But no, yeah, like back in the day, like I tried to get like more like I got into Final Cut. Like that was like the first program I started to learn in college, in high school, and that was just a lot of fun to play around with. And
for people that don't know, what is that software? What is that?
It's a great editing software.
Okay.
It's like I think it's a little more advanced than iMovie 09.
Yeah.
And I think the version I started off with was Final Cut 7. If any of the viewers remember that from back in the day, that was that's how I got my start. So that was a lot of fun.
And you just took that into UT. You knew right out the gate, I want to get into film editing and all that stuff. And what is their program like? Because I know once upon a time, one of my first jobs out of high school, I worked at a place called Buybacks. Mm-hmm. It was over by Chick-fil-A on Monroe and Talmadge. And there was a gentleman there, I can't remember his name for the life of me, unfortunately. But he was also in the program, and he just spoke super highly of it. And you guys get some pretty awesome equipment to kind of work around and things like that. Is it still kind of similar to the way he was painting the picture?
Yes, so I got to use some great equipment.
Okay.
The best part about college for me was networking, because I made a lot of great friends, and there's a lot of people who I still work with. Mm-hmm. My composer, Jarrett, actually, we met in a class in college, and he was just super cool, and then we just hit it off, and he's been helping me since, and he does a fantastic job at running audio, creating scores for movies. And I will say this, like, yeah, I took some classes with the comm department too. That was really helpful. Like, that was really hands-on as well. I met a couple great friends for that.
Yeah.
And I actually I had a pretty cool gig going into college, actually. So before I got into college, like literally a week before, my buddy Zach reached out to me, and he said like, "Hey, there's an open spot on the video team. We need someone to shoot coaches film and someone to shoot highlights for game day, and we were wondering if you want to take a crack at it." And I also remember working at Bob Evans at the time, and I quit that job in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And like I was a dish tank operator, so like I did some. That was. There's some wild stories from that, but
with all the stuff going on with Michigan right now, it sounds like a trap. But no, that's an awesome thing to get into that. So from there you got into that, and then how did you kind of get from there to, you're out of college, you're kind of into the videography setting for, we talked about you were here and did a few of our events at Remax, and then you've done like weddings and things like that. Just how did that bridge kind of happen?
Right. So in college, like on top of doing stuff for the football team, I remember like in the summertime, like there'd be like a big gap of like there's like not really a whole lot going on. And then I remember one of my teachers from high school actually reached out and said, "Hey, I'm shooting a wedding, and I know you do a lot of work for UT's football team. Would you be willing to help me shoot a wedding this Saturday at Parkway Plaza?"
Yeah.
Mommy. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. That's easy money."
Yeah.
I helped out for a couple hours, and it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. And then I remember it just snowballed from there. Like, a lot of friends reached out to me saying, like, oh, hey, my older brother, he's getting married this year. And then it just basically snowballed and got bigger and bigger. I remember, I think it was, I think I only charged like $850 when I first started off. And I remember, like, literally it was literally everyone was telling me to bump up my prices.
Sure.
Like, I think even a few clients told me to bump my prices too, so I definitely upped that.
We owe you more money. Yeah, that's always a nice thing, though. It means you're doing a good job.
Yeah, that was definitely, it meant a lot hearing that. And basically, yeah, I started doing weddings a little bit in college, and then when the time came at the end of college, my job with the football team was coming to an end, and I started to think, like, okay, well, what's going to go on after this? And then it hit me. I was like, maybe I should just be self-employed full time.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot of great clients. I built a pretty great following.
Yeah.
In the 419 area, and oh yeah, it was definitely a lot of works. Getting used to everything. It was definitely sort of a challenge in 2019.
Sure.
Because that's the first year like out of college for me, and I built up a great clientele from the ground up, and things just really snowballed. Like, I shot quite a few weddings in 2019, and it just basically spread. Like, a lot of people reached out, like, people reached out and said, oh, hey, you shot so-and-so's wedding. Oh, that's cool. They're my cousin.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to shoot mine? And basically the rest is history.
That's cool.
I went full-time with my business and have never looked back.
Yeah,
It's been great.
A lot of the folks I've had on here, and I'm the same way. Like, I worked at Jeep before I got into this, and I'm not trying to like put down what other people do to provide for their families, but once you like have a taste of it, and you're your own motivation,
Yeah.
it makes everything just go more smoothly. It makes rolling out of bed easier. You know, you're your own responsibility. No one's telling you to go do a thing. It's just, I got to get this, and that done.
Right.
What are some of the challenges? I was kind of thinking about this while you were talking about everything. We spoke about some of them with, you know, like wind and this and that with like the directing and things like that. But when it comes to like the other aspect of things, what are some of those challenges like? Because I guess they're a little different, because one's like a passion project in some sense, but the other one is kind of like what keeps the lights on, right?
Yes.
So like, what are some of the challenges with like your day to day, like when you're doing like videography for whether it's like one of our gigs, a wedding? Because you talked about wind, obviously you don't have to. You guys do sound. Do you have like drone shots that you do, or what are some of the things that you guys have to go through?
Real quick before you answer, can you move the bottle back closer to you, just because it's right in front of you in the wide? I'm annoyed that it took me so long to realize.
Is it good right here?
If you can put it like under the microphone.
I'll just put it right down here.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. It looked like we're sponsored by Kirkland Water. Go ahead, please.
But yeah, some of the challenges, one of the biggest challenges would be balancing everything, because working on like an independent film, along with like weddings, shooting promotional content for businesses, schools, and I also shot for Central Catholic in Northview. I shot their football games this year.
Oh, cool.
I would say like the biggest challenge was just trying to like balance everything, because making a movie felt like its own business too.
Sure.
Because I got accepted in like one of the arts commission gave me a grant, and it's
great.
like it felt that kind of like made that feel like it's like, okay, they gave me a big chunk of change here. Now this feels
starting to get
more
real.
like a business. Yeah,
Yeah.
it got real.
That's
so
cool.
I was like definitely trying to balance.
That's a cool thing, going from a 6-pack though to a
Yeah.
grant, and someone's trying to help, you know, propel this thing that you're super excited about and have on T-shirts now, and
Right.
you got some cool swag, man. I like it.
Yeah.
So like Monarch, what were some of the inspirations for that? Like, I was watching it, and like, again, shout out to your composer who you've already shouted out. There was definitely a vibe about it, you know, and you can feel it. My wife was walking through, and she's like, your movie seems like feels like Stranger Things, and I'm like, it feels eerie, man, and I like it. It's good. But yeah, what was like some of the inspirations for that?
It's funny you mentioned that, because like I sent my Jarrett a bunch of like samples from Stranger Things. Like, I kind of was like going for like a synthy vibe.
Yeah.
And he did such an amazing job with all that. And then I would say definitely one of the biggest influences would be Stephen King. Like, I've been a big fan of like Stand By Me growing up.
Yeah.
11/22/63. That's on Hulu. That was a really great show.
Yeah.
Those two were like really big inspirations for me. And then obviously Stranger Things. That might be one of my favorite shows right now. So
I think that my big gripe with it is I wish they would have done it. Have you ever seen the show Fargo?
I have not. No.
Okay, so Fargo is a lot like Goosebumps in the sense that it's like, see, each season it doesn't coincide. It's in the same universe, but it doesn't go back to back to back.
Right.
So it's a different story every season. I wish Stranger Things would have did something like that, because I felt like the first season was like so just perfect.
Yes.
And then the second season was a little messy, and then my guy behind the camera and I both agreed that the third season is just like set it on the tee, home run, absolutely perfect. But yeah, no, Stranger Things, I agree. It's definitely a game. I mean, we play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons.
Have you seen the 4th season yet?
Yeah, we have. I think it's wrapped up, right? Is that like
that's
the
on
end
Netflix
apparently?
right now.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 parts of it. There's like a volume 1 and volume 2. Then there's also a 5th season coming out soon.
Okay.
Holy moly, that 4th season went from like the first 3 felt like Yo Gabba Gabba kind of. Then the next one turned on the jets and like it had like more of like a Nightmare on Elm Street like horror vibe. Like I was like, holy crap! Like this is like some of this is R-rated. Holy moly!
Yeah.
Like this took a real sharp turn.
Like who is it? The guy from Lord of the Rings. He plays Sam, and he's also in the Goonies.
Bob, plays Bob Newby's the character.
He gets eaten. Like
he gets eaten alive. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. Like holy crap! Yeah.
No, the deaths in it are great. Like they mean a lot. Like I think what was the other one? If you guys haven't seen Stranger Things, I apologize. It's been out for a while, and you should have already seen it. So sorry.
10 out of 10 recommend it.
Easy, and if you haven't, we're gonna keep spoiling it. But like Billy, when Billy goes, man, that like in the second season he's kind of just like another character, but in the third season he's like. Even though he's kind of like the lead zombie kind of guy, you get a lot more out of that character, and I think it's fantastic. So yeah, Stephen King, I get that I can definitely see that coming through with your movie. Where do you get your guys from? Your actors, like are they people you went to school with, or how do you find them?
It's a big variety, actually. So there's some people who I met in a group called Film Toledo. Yeah. I met a couple people, or a couple actors who were really talented at a mixer they had last year. And then I just basically said, like, hey, I'm making a new movie. It's a road trip movie. Yeah. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in auditioning. And they sent over their audition tapes. And the ones that were really good, I just said, like, hey, great job. Sure. Would you be willing to read sides from... one of the characters in the movie, and then a couple of them read sides, and they did a great job and landed the roles. And then another actor who I met, actually one of the lead actors I met at a formal back in 2017. Both of our girlfriends at the time were going to school at Siena Heights. Yeah. And I met him. He's like, hey, I'm a actor at UT. And I'm like, oh, no kidding. I'm actually in the film department. And then from there, I mean, we've been working... His name is Yusuf Badar. We've been working for quite a while now, and he's a phenomenal actor to work with. And then on top of like recruiting him, there's a lot of great talent from UT, who I got to know. And then to reiterate what I said earlier, networking was half the battle. Oh yeah, at UT, like getting to know like everyone, getting to work with so many talented individuals in front of and behind the camera, and
next time you get to go to one of those mixers, if you have an extra ticket, please let me know.
Oh, it's free for the most part.
Oh, yeah. Well, just let me know next time they have it. That'd be a blast. I eat that stuff up, and I just feel like that's the kind of circle, like, people just talking the same talk. Yeah. And so we were messaging a little bit before, and we were kind of dipping our toes into stuff that we like, but you asked me about our top 5 movies. Yes. Right? So, I mean, we had some similarities on there. Off the top of my head, like I said, it's tough because if we're going best movies, my list is very different than my favorite movies. Like I had Big Fish on my favorite movie list, and I don't know that if it's not one of my best movies that I've seen. Mm-hmm. So, if you can remember off the top of your head, I don't know if it's like a sealed thing that you have, but do you remember what your 5 were that you gave me?
I think I mentioned it. It was Empire Strikes Back, Forrest Gump, Toy Story. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds really corny, but that's one of the very first VHS movies I've ever watched as a kid. Yeah. And then Napoleon Dynamite is just freaking hilarious. Yeah. Like I love John Heder in that. Yep.
Superbad. I remember it. It was Superbad.
Yeah, Superbad was the last one. I think that one's hilarious.
They're great, dude. They hold up so good. It's crazy. Like I haven't watched Superbad in like 2 or 3 years. It was like a few months ago, and I put it on, and I was in stitches. I remember the first time I watched it, and it was in high school. Someone brought it in like a bootleg DVD, and they're like, "Yeah, it's a good movie. It's really funny. You'll like it." And we put it on our geography class. It was like after exams, and if you're watching Charles Shaw, we were like curled up next to each other, crying because we were laughing so hard. And our teacher, like after the first few like jokes, you know, it gets like pretty dirty pretty quick.
Yeah.
The teacher gets up and we're thinking he's going to walk over and turn the TV off and take the CD out and give someone in trouble. He walks up to the door and grabs it and closes it and goes and sits back down. We're like, yes, we are in there, man. But yeah, I mean, as far as your favorites, I mean, what is like, how does that stuff like, where does that drive any of the inspiration that you kind of have for any of your like what you're doing, or what was kind of the catalyst? So like, I had a karate instructor on a few episodes ago, and we talked about when I was a kid, I was all about being a Power Ranger. And that was kind of my jumping off point for getting into martial arts. You know, was it Toy Story or was it Superbad, or what was it that was like, you know, I kind of want to give this a shot and see if I can like make a living doing something like this.
I think I was at my friend's birthday party when I was 9. We went to go see Star Wars Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
And I thought it was like the coolest movie ever at the time.
Sure.
Like I remember like after that, like I grabbed my parents' VHS camera. We started shooting like lightsaber battles like in the backyard. It was really goofy. And yeah, basically just snowballed from there. Like I loved like it got to me thinking like, holy cow, like people actually came together. Like the special effects are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I saw Empire Strikes Back, and I didn't think much of it at the time. Like I thought it was just like, oh cool, lightsaber battles, pew pew pew. Like I thought
fast forward to the end, right?
Fun. Yeah. But like rewatching it, I rewatched it in college, and it's like, holy moly, like this is really well put together for like the 80s. This still holds up. Like the cinematography, the lighting, the storytelling. Oh yeah. And obviously the biggest twist of all time with like Darth Vader being Luke's father. Like we've always have heard that. Like we knew it was coming as kids.
Sure.
But imagine if you were like,
you had no idea.
Imagine in the 80s, like you're sitting in a theater in 1980 with like your friends, and they drop that. Like,
well, you got to think too. So like, as an adult, just because there's not as much action, A New Hope is kind of like pushed down when you're younger. Yeah. As far as being like, what's the best Star Wars movie, right? But as you get older, you appreciate different things in film and things like that. A New Hope has got to be damn near the top. Like it's so good. It's just a perfect little adventure movie. And then you get to Empire Strikes Back, and it's a reach. Like it's an ambitious thing because it is so different than A New Hope. Very
different, yes.
And it works so good. Like the bad guy just wins, and you just leave there, and you're like, man, now what? And it's just fantastic. They do such an awesome job with it.
Well, imagine like being a kid when Empire Strikes Back dropped.
Yeah.
And then you had to wait 3 years for Return of the Jedi to be released.
Yeah. You're just sitting there in despair. Like
we're lucky nowadays. We can just pop in the next DVD and see what happens next. But like waiting for like that extended period of time, oof, that must have been tough.
And there's no internet.
There's no internet either.
It's all just you know, guys chopping it up, or people just, you know, at the coffee shop or whatever, just talking about the nerd stuff that they do. Yeah. And then it just you get your own fan theories going and things like that, and then you get to Empire Strikes Back, and it's like, man, they lost in the first like 10 minutes, and then they lose again, and then they lose again, and then the hero's coming. You know, you see the hero coming, he's coming, and then he loses too.
He gets his hands slashed up.
Yeah. The baby face just gets got, man. It's so much fun. The original Star Wars is so fun, but then like, I wish I could go back because I don't remember it, but I know I did go to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And I wish I could like relive that even, you know, like the shot of Darth Maul, you know, coming through like the doors and like the orchestra picking up. Yeah. It's, oh gosh. Like, do you still go to the movies quite a bit?
Yeah. I try and go with my friends every now and then. Yeah. It's definitely a fun experience.
Yeah. It's still as good as it's ever been. So like I refuse to rewatch Top Gun. Yeah. Like the new one. Because I watched it in theaters and I can't imagine it's going to be anything like that. Yeah. Like when we were in there, we went and saw it in XD at the Franklin Park Mall. And when they would like get in the jet and start doing stuff, like the theater was shaking.
Yeah. It's wild.
And it is intense, man. And I'm like, dude, I'm just like looking at the equipment I have at home and I'm like, I don't have any of that. I'm not going to be able to do this movie any justice. What are some of like the more impressive movies that you've seen lately, I suppose, that you're kind of like super into?
Yeah, the Top Gun movie was just such a blast to watch. I love Miles Teller. I love Tom Cruise. And it's like one scene I remember like watching. It was like they were in like a hangar, and I heard that scene cost like millions to shoot. Like it costs like a ton of money.
Sure.
And I'm like, dang, I have to sell my kidney on the black market.
Yeah.
To get to like that kind of cost.
Sure.
That's not even close. I even feel too. But yeah, that was a great movie. Other movies I've seen this year, I saw The Marvels a couple weeks ago, and that was okay.
Yeah.
The last 20 minutes are probably the most worth it to see.
Yeah.
I like Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm a big Marvel fan.
A lot of people enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was a really fun movie.
What about Loki? Did you see Loki?
I am not.
You need to see Loki.
I need to catch up on so much Marvel content.
I'm not a big Marvel guy. Yeah. I'm kind of critical about it actually,
Yeah.
but when it's good, I do appreciate it. Like I think that my brother and I were talking about the differences between like Endgame and Infinity War and why both were so good, but in different ways, and just why it's kind of started to, it seems like pitter patter out a little bit. But Loki is so good, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to use that show because of the reception that it got to just kind of reset all of the people that are kind of just hating right now. But no, I eat it up. It's fun. It's just I miss the old guys, man.
I know. I miss it's not the same without Tony Stark or Captain America. I will say this. I had such a blast with No Way Home.
Yeah.
Like I love seeing like Doc Ock come back.
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe's the Green Goblin. That was awesome. And then seeing, you know what the wildest thing is? Daredevil's cameo in that movie was like the third best cameo.
Oh yeah.
And then seeing Tobey Maguire and then Andrew Garfield come in, like I remember the theater going nuts.
Yeah.
And I have such a hot take. I know people are going to be PO'd about this, but I think No Way Home is better than Infinity War and Endgame. Now that's just my personal opinion. I know people are going to roast me in the comments or whatever, but I liked those movies. I like, not that I didn't like Infinity War and Endgame, but like the action, the pacing, like seeing Willem Dafoe like do crazy stuff. Like it was just such a fun movie.
I'll go down this rabbit hole with you because I like Spider-Man a lot.
Okay.
What's your favorite superhero movie
of all time?
Yep.
Oh, holy smokes.
Even if you gotta like compile them in an order, like just like okay, these 4 come to mind.
Okay, I would say my favorites. I like the X-Men movies. I loved like First Class. I thought was really great. I loved Days of Futures Past.
Yeah.
And then Apocalypse was pretty good. Like I really thought those movies were underrated.
Okay.
And I liked Captain America: Civil War. That might be one of my favorite superhero movies. That was just a really fun time. I love the twist at the end. And I just thought that was just a great theater experience overall. And
so my personal favorite is I think the original Captain America is close to being awesome. It falls short, but it's really, really good. Again, it's like A New Hope. You go back to it a few years later, and you're like, man, they almost got it. Those guys, those original guys that they had, like Chris Evans, and they're so synonymous with each other. Robert Downey Jr. I almost just said Tony Stark. Yeah. They just have so much on-screen charisma where they just make the movie happen. But for me, I really love, and I think it's almost a perfect movie, is Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire.
That's a really fun one as well. I was thinking about putting that one on my favorite list.
It's so good.
Superhero
and
movies.
It's
great.
And the reason I feel that way, and I watch I've seen all of those movies up to a certain point, and they do a lot of it in the new Batman that has Robert Pattinson in it. Mm-hmm. They don't characterize the world anymore. I don't feel like they're saving anything. Mm-hmm. I just feel like we're building to fight the bad guy. Yeah. Where in all of the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, you felt like New York was a real place in this world. You felt like Jameson was a guy goofy, crazy guy that could be created from this world. And same with the new Batman movies with Robert Pattinson. Like it just feels greasy and dirty. And you see like the guy that's who plays the Penguin? Colin Farrell. You see Colin Farrell as the Penguin, and he's not like all ridiculous like the Penguins of past, with Danny DeVito, but he just looks like a dude that would come out of the gutter in this world. Yes. And it just feels nasty. And then at the end of it, it's not a real big bad guy that Batman fights. Excuse me. He's just saving people. Pretty much. And they don't do a lot of that in the big movies anymore with these Marvel things. And the scene with the train scene in Spider-Man 2 is like it. He has the same kind of dichotomy in the first one where he's got to like save Mary Jane or save the people.
Yes.
That's Spider-Man. He's the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, man. He's supposed to be saving folks, not fighting aliens. You know what I mean? Like,
there's one shot I love in the first Raimi Spider-Man, where it's like you see like the like cart. There's like the kids that are dropping, and then Mary Jane is dropping. Then like you see like in one eye, like
it's so
she's
good.
dropping, and then the kids are falling.
Yeah,
and he's got to like pick between which one. I thought that
and
shot
you see
was
it in
amazing.
his Spider-Man's eyes.
My goodness,
oh,
yes.
mwah.
The cinematography in that is just amazing. I love the visual storytelling, and Tobey Maguire is just such a great actor.
He
as
just
well.
sells it. Whatever it is, he sells it. Like the screams, the Tobey Maguire screams are it, man. Like
I think the third Spider-Man, where he gets like the black suit symbiote,
yeah,
that's still a guilty pleasure of mine. Like it's goofy, but like it's still enjoyable. Like when he's walking down the street, dancing, doing this. Like I love watching that over and over.
I mean,
it's
if you
ridiculous.
watch it by itself and you compare it to all the other things that have been made for Marvel and Spider-Man, it's okay. It's a bit much, but when you like watch them in order, it makes sense with that character and the way he's portraying Peter Parker, and for that to be the version. You know, he's not running around and just like jocking it and like killing people or anything. It's just he's goofy Peter Parker, man. He's Tobey Maguire. Why wouldn't he be feeling himself a little bit? You know what I mean? Like, it does make sense. Why wouldn't he be on the phone eating the neighbor's cookies and just like rolling his eyes at people? Like, it just is so Tobey Maguire. I agree. It gets a bad rap. That movie was a lot of fun. I think for me, that movie, what makes it a bit weird is not him having the symbiote. It's more when it gets transferred and like they try and do Venom, and Venom just feels weird in that movie.
Yeah,
I felt like he should have been his own thing. That's the first time in like the Sam Raimi movies where it felt a bit oversaturated.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Topher Grace's Venom was really goofy.
Yeah, but if it was by itself, you know, whatever. You know, because everybody was a little goofy. Like even the shots, like when Sandman has something happen, it's like quick shot to his face. You know what I mean? Like, or like any one of those three villains could have been their own thing.
Yeah, I would have loved if they just focused on like James Franco's Goblin and that.
Right.
I think that would have been perfect.
I agree.
Or maybe Sandman a little bit, like throw him in, but like balancing like all three was just chaos.
It felt busy.
Yeah, there's Gwen Stacy in there too. Like it just felt like she was out of left field as well, being in that movie, and it was really it was kind of scatterbrained, but I mean, the other two movies I just absolutely loved. And then, like I said, the third movie is more of like a guilty pleasure. Like, it's goofy. There's funny parts.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes like you just need like a Friday night to just eat popcorn, watch mindless.
Oh, man.
That's a good mindless movie to watch.
100%.
And enjoy yourself. Get a good laugh in.
We were talking about, before we got started, the Peter Jackson King Kong movie. And it's the same kind of deal. It gets a bad rap because it's a million minutes long. Like it's just
a pretty long movie.
It's so much movie. But yeah, it's the same kind of deal. That's just a fun. I haven't gotten, because it's so long, I've only gotten to like the island. We're not even off of the island yet. But what about the new Spider-Mans? Have you seen like Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse? How do you feel about those?
Across the Spider-Verse was such a fun movie.
Yeah.
I went to go see that with my buddy earlier in the summer. And that was it was such a fun experience.
Yeah.
I love that one. I love the other animated one too, Into the Spider-Verse. Nick Cage is one of my favorite actors of all time.
God.
So seeing him play a character in that was just a lot of fun as well. I'm big into the Cage.
Have you seen Pig?
I have. I saw that.
Pig is great.
Yeah, last year. That was a really good one.
Pig's great. What about the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent?
Yes, that's a good one
It's
too.
so
with Pedro
good.
Pascal.
Yes.
It's so goofy, but like it's just such a fun movie.
I didn't really watch a lot about it, but I heard it getting a little bit of buzz. And a friend of mine and myself, it was like he and I went to see it in theaters, and there was like 6 other people in there, and it was just dead. And we knew that, and we were absolutely howling in there. It was so funny, like the scene when they take acid.
Yeah,
it is an absolute treat, man. Like I haven't laughed hard for a movie like that. I would say probably since before everything got, you know, like they can't do comedies like they used to because everybody it's so PC. But a scene like that is just a bunch of goofballs being goofy.
I love all the memes that came from that too. With
where he's just
song.
like.
I thought those are hilarious.
That is great. So, just before we'll be here forever, and we got a bit of a time limit here, so I don't want to hurry us along. However,
10 more minutes.
I'm gonna. That's what are some, you know, Marvel stuff aside? What are some of the inspirations you have for the new movie? We talked about Stephen King for Monarch, and is it the same kind of vibe in this next one, or?
Right. So with the Ride to Nowhere, I was a big fan of like John Hughes movies.
Mm-hmm.
So like Ferris Bueller's Day Off was great. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah.
Breakfast Club, that's a really good movie. And I wanted to do something like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something that had funny moments,
Yeah.
but also had more heartfelt.
Sure.
And early 2022, I had an idea like, okay, what if there was a character who went on a road trip, like it was full of surprises. What if he goes on a road trip to visit like an old crush?
Yeah.
And I really fell in love with that concept. It was a lot of fun to make. It was very fun to write, bring to life.
Yeah.
I sent a couple of the drafts to friends. Some of them said like, "Oh, hey, this is really great, but this part kind of sucks, so you might want to rewrite it."
Sure.
Well, maybe not like that exact like, maybe not that.
No,
like,
I know
they
what
weren't
you're
that
getting at,
harsh,
though.
but like they're like maybe like tweak this up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I tweaked things up, and by the end of I think it was like September 2022, I had a final script.
How cool.
So I started reaching out to actors. My buddy Steven, he did lighting for the film. He was excited. It was his first project he worked on.
That's awesome.
That was a like big film project because he helped me out with weddings and other things and whatnot. But it was a fun crew to work with. We all still keep in touch.
That's great.
We all keep in touch. Get to hear like how we're all doing. There's some talent that worked on another film called The Lifeguards.
Yeah.
And I helped out with that a little bit. So it's really fun to see like how networking works. Like it's definitely it was great getting to work with so many talented individuals in the area, like composers, actors, talents behind the camera, talents in front of the camera, and it was just such a blast.
It's weird because as much as technology and how fast technology changes, as we kind of get older, it is just what everyone's always said. It's not what, but who, right? Yeah. Did you guys have a much bigger cast in this one, or?
Yes, this was definitely a bigger cast.
Okay.
And then we had a bigger crew as well. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but like with Monarch, the challenge was like we could only have so many cast and crew members
because of COVID
on set because the pandemic was going on. We shot that in the summer of 2020, and then with this one, it was just like all the rules were lifted and whatnot because we shot this most of this year, and it just felt like it was like okay, let's have at it. We gave it 110%.
That's awesome,
and it was just a lot of fun.
I know that's kind of how we
brought the cavalry.
That's awesome. That's kind of how we first half met. As I saw you posted something, trying to get backup people.
Yes.
What's my brain?
Extras.
There it is. Some extras for some shots, and I was like, dude, this is sweet. We should do it. And then just work. Someone wanted to see a couple of houses. I'm like, dude, I would love to do this, but
life gets in the way sometimes. It's all good.
Yeah, no, but that's super cool and that's exciting. And I'm super interested in film, so I'm glad that it's worked out for you. So yeah, I guess what if you want to just go ahead? Where do we watch it? When is it coming out? When can we expect to check our new movie out?
Well, Kyle, we're still actually in the editing stages right now.
Okay.
So my plan is to finish everything by the winter time, either late January or early February.
Okay.
My composer Jared, he's doing a great job piecing the score together. I'm meeting up with my colorist John tomorrow. He's been doing all the color grading for the film. And we have a cut for the movie right now finished, but we just need to fine tune specific bits and tighten all the screws, and it's gonna be a fun movie. We're really eager to share this with everyone.
I can tell, man. You look excited about it, and I mean, Monarch, the one that I have seen, it's a lot of fun, and I pay attention to stupid stuff in movies. I just do. Like the one scene when the bad guy, it's breaking into the house.
Yeah.
When he goes to his buddy's house and his buddy opens the door and he just has this giant stain on his shirt.
Yeah.
I think that is hilarious. And I love that. Because obviously you see it when you're shooting it.
Yeah.
And you can be like, wear a clean shirt. But why would this guy? He's the bad guy.
He's a bad guy. He's kind of a slob. Yeah, that was Charles Wetzel. He's a local actor. He played the bad guy, Georgie, or one of the bad guys. And he was just a pleasure to work with. And he really brought that character. He gave that character such fun energy. And yeah, it was a great movie to work on. I definitely learned a lot from that.
Sure.
It felt like, because my other movie, Renegade, that was more of a slapstick, goofy comedy I made in college. And then Monarch, I wanted to push myself and do something a little more serious.
Yeah.
And that was more of a more dramatic, sci-fi-ish time travel movie. And then I went back to my roots with The Ride to Nowhere. I had humor in it.
Yeah.
There were some more heartfelt moments. and that was just a great experience as well. So it's
Cool.
definitely it's nice getting to work with like different genres.
It's like shocking. Like when I was watching Monarch, and you see the one guy, like, go back. There's time travel involved. It's
Yeah.
So when the one guy goes back, and you see like the army guys,
Yeah.
it's like I pulled my remote up. I'm like, am I still watching the same thing? And it was a cool job, and you did an awesome job with it. And I don't expect anything less with the Ride to Nowhere, man. So
Thank you.
if we want to get some merch, you said you have some merch. How do we find some merch? Just kind of let everybody know where that's at, and if we want to hire you for a wedding, say someone's getting married or we have something coming up, just shameless plug time.
Okay. Well, if you're looking for a videographer for weddings, or if you need any promotional event shot, make sure to give Anthony Wright Films a follow on Facebook or Instagram. And if you're willing to follow our film that's coming out next year, The Ride to Nowhere, follow that on social media. That's on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, just all over the place, really. And if you're looking to buy some merch, the holidays around the corner, the baseball T-shirts are amazing.
I think so.
Yeah, these are a lot of fun to wear.
Yeah, those are great.
I loved, actually, the inspiration for this came from Stranger Things. Like, I don't know if you saw the fourth season.
Sure.
What's that with the Hellfire Club shirts?
Yeah.
I thought those were so cool. Like, I
Yeah.
really thought the baseball tees were just
It's
awesome.
a good look.
Thank you.
What else do you guys have? You have beanies and
Yes, we have
baseball
winter
hats,
hats, beanies. If you follow us on Instagram or Facebook for The Ride to Nowhere, shoot us a message, and we'd love to hook you up with some awesome merch.
Awesome, man. And I'm Kyle. I thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. I've been itching for this. Every time anybody comes on, I'm like, you guys want to talk about movies or what, man?
Yes.
So we'll
about
absolutely
movies.
have to do it again when we get closer to you guys' release. And yeah, and I'm Kyle. I work with Remax. If you guys have any questions, buying, selling, or investing, and have like those New Year's resolutions around the corner, and you guys are sick of paying someone's rent, let me know. I'd love to help you out. And thank you again for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.